With the current muscle mass he has right now and the judging standards of 2024, he's going to look absolutely tiny on stage. Not nearly big enough. The man is 6 feet tall, and unless you're well over 200 pounds, you're not big enough. Coach Greg, in today's video, Jeff Seid returns to the stage. And so in case you're new to this, perhaps you're a teenager, you haven't heard of Jeff Seid, this guy had an incredible physique, one of the best physiques of all time. However, it wasn't really all that big. And in the past, I've made a natty on him. I claimed he was not natty, but yet he still wasn't big enough. Big enough to turn pro, but not big enough to win at the highest level. It's been 8 years since his last competition. Let's consider this. If he was in fact 100% natural all those years, and he's had 8 extra additional years to train, he should be at his all-time best. You would expect him to put on more muscle than last time because, let me tell you this, no one is at their genetic limit at 21. When I trained natural from the age of 10, I kept growing well beyond my early 20s. Greg Doucette video incoming. 4% body fat is impossible, Greg Doucette. We're gonna see. Is he in fact 4% body fat? Is he going to win? What are his chances? Let's get right into it.
I'm 3.5 weeks out. I've been shredding for 10 weeks. This is by far the most lean, the most shredded I've been in many years.
And so at 3.5 weeks out, he's already in the best shape of his life. He was as lean as he was when he won his pro show, which qualified him for the Olympia.
I mean, yesterday I was on 1,800 calories.
And so he's on a serious prep now. He's only eating between 1,800 and 2,200 calories. He's clearly in a deficit. He's even struggling to get through a leg workout at 4 weeks out. And so you know he's going to be at his all-time best.
I don't count macros unless I absolutely have to, like when I'm trying to get to 4% body fat, so.
His goal is, get this, 4% body fat. Now remember this, he competes in men's physique, and 4% body fat is in fact leaner than he needs to be. 4% is about as lean as the top IFBB open class bodybuilders and classic physique champions such as Chris Bumstead. In his off season, he doesn't count macros, but because he's getting ready for a show, he's counting macros, carbs, protein, and so on, making sure he's doing everything to compete as his all-time best.
I'm gonna be training push day today, so chest, shoulders, triceps, gonna be a good sesh.
And so it's a push day, chest, shoulders, and triceps. And how many of you, raise your hand right now, think he's doing this 100% natural? I'm just curious. I have my mirror out. It's romper room time, and I'm looking around there, and hardly anyone has their hands up because people, they're waking the cookbook up. They realize that to compete at the pro level in 2024 as a natural athlete, it's ridiculous. It's fantasy land. And so if you're thinking Jeff Seid, he's been natural all along. Well, if he was in fact natural, expect him to be way, way better. But remember this, we seen him several months ago post an updated photo. He was flexing his body, and how did he look? Well, I'll tell you how he looked. He looked incredibly downsized. He appeared to be much smaller than last time. And so why do you think that is? Well, if you perhaps used PEDs in your teens or perhaps in your early 20s and you then stop those drugs, what do you think is going to happen to your muscles? Do you think you're just going to keep all of it? Hey, muscle nuclei banked, I'm going to be big, jacked forever. No, it doesn't work like that. Look at most of the IFBB pros once they retire. Do they look as big as when they were competing? Of course they don't. Many of them have lost 50 or more pounds of muscle. And those who don't, do you really think they're natural, or do you think they're doing sports TRT? Sports TRT, for example, 200 milligrams or more, it's not natural, it's a small cycle. And so that's why they're able to keep the majority of their gains.
I upped the calories today, 2,200, up the carbs as well, 250 grams of carbs. So I try to do that, like, because my personal preference and my goal of this prep is to have my chest and shoulders really full on stage. So what that means is
Anavar, SARMs, testosterone, and so on. It doesn't mean you're adding in more carbs. Hear me out. If you diet down to 4% body fat and you're eating between 1,800 and 2,200 calories, how do you think you're just magically going to have full-looking chest, shoulders, and so on? You're not. You're going to look stringy. Stringy is a term used for guys that diet down to get shredded, but they don't have the muscle that they once had. And so unless you're taking something, when you diet down, you're going to appear a lot smaller. People don't diet down for shows and suddenly grow pecs, shoulders, and so on. It doesn't happen unless, of course, you're taking and abusing performance-enhancing drugs. And so you can't just eat high carbs throughout your diet and expect to have a full-looking chest on stage. To diet down to 4%, you need a severe calorie deficit for several weeks, months, and or years. And so by just adding in a refeed day, a high-carb day, the day before you perform legs and so on, it's not going to make a difference when it comes to competing on stage. When you compete on stage at 4%, you're going to be dehydrated, you're going to have less water retention, and so you're not going to get that full look that you so desire. It comes from having a shit ton of freaking muscle. And so if Jeff Seid put on 20, 30 pounds of muscle and compete on stage, everything is going to look full, everything's going to look thick, and he could potentially win the competition. But with the current muscle mass he has right now and the judging standards of 2024, he's going to look absolutely tiny on stage. Not nearly big enough. The man is 6 feet tall, and unless you're well over 200 pounds, you're not big enough. It's 2024, and guys who compete in men's physique, they look like open-class bodybuilders, only they're more aesthetic with a smaller waist.
You know, I train chest, shoulders. It's high carb day. Raise up the calories. That's why yesterday I did legs. That was my lower carb day, low calorie day. Because, come on guys, I'm doing men's physique. You don't gotta have giant legs on stage, so.
But the weight cap for being approximately 6 feet tall as a professional is closer to 220 pounds. 220. When you're 6 foot tall, 4% body fat, and 220, you're almost a super heavyweight bodybuilder. It is absolutely ginormous. And so do you need a full-looking chest and shoulders? Yes, absolutely. But you also need a dramatic V-taper. You need an amazing back, coupled with the small waist and perhaps decent-looking calves, and that's a recipe for a first-place victory.
Fucking job, bro. Look at his fucking arm. Dude, I'm shredded.
And so he's looking shredded. He flexes the bicep. You can see striations in there, but he isn't anywhere near 4% body fat. He is lean, absolutely single digits for sure. But to get to 4%, he's going to have to diet harder than last time. Here's the thing. Does he look like an open class bodybuilder? If he announced he's competing in an amateur bodybuilding competition, would you call him jacked, massive, huge? The answer is no. But to win at the pro level in men's physique, you need to have so much muscle. Exhibit A, let's examine some of these men physique competitors. Look at their physiques. Look at the size, the back, the delts, the chest, everything. And they all have a small waist. And so in comparison, Jeff is simply not going to be big enough. And so as he's warming up with the hoodie on, it's a good idea to get a sweat going before increasing the weight. But one thing I don't like is he's not controlling the weight on the eccentric. You want to slowly lower the weight. You can push it up more quickly. What you don't want to do is ego lift, lifting too heavy a weight, especially with single-digit body fat while on performance-enhancing drugs. It's a recipe for an injury. And so what I didn't like was how fast he lowered the weight, the time under tension to me was a bit too short, in particular for a guy 3.5 weeks out.
When I'm pushing down a little bit. So I feel like I'm kind of targeting the lower chest.
And what he's saying about pushing downwards on the machine to get the lower chest, you don't need to do that. In general, for almost everyone in this world, most guys are looking to build the upper chest. You don't need to focus on the lower chest. And so we're not going to do a decline bench press. We're not going to do decline. For the most part, we want to do an incline, perhaps 30 degrees or maybe even a little bit less. Training on a flat is okay, but anytime you're pushing more up, especially if you're pushing together, working more the upper chest, you're getting a great squeeze. On the descent, you try to go slower than last time, get a deep stretch. You can even pause to take out the stretch reflex. That allows you to increase time under tension and build more muscle than last time.
It's going pretty good. Progress has been great. I'm happy with the physique. I'll take out the top off, show you guys what we're working with.
And so when a guy is pumped up, excited while on a diet, really happy with the physique in general, that's a sign that they're probably taking something. They're probably not natural, because when people diet down, almost everybody's going to say, I'm feeling small. I'm feeling like I'm losing muscle. I'm feeling stringy. Rarely does somebody go on a diet and say, wow, look at the reflection in the mirror. I can't believe I look this jacked. It look this incredible.
I feel so small right now. Maybe I do need trouble.
Even the Trend twins on a diet, even they're saying they're starting to feel small. And look at them. They look incredible. And as he's doing these flies on his second working set here, it just seems like he's not focused. He doesn't seem dialed in. He seems like he's arbitrarily just moving the weights around, sticking his head forward, not concentrating, talking into the camera. And when you're 3.5 weeks out, you should really feel the motion. You should should really feel the stretch, the squeeze, and concentrate on the movement that you're lifting. You just throwing the weight around, up and down, talking to the camera. It doesn't seem like he's really putting in all that much effort.
I'm going 220. I'm gonna go for 6 to 8 reps in this one. Last time I filled around like 9.
And so he's saying, this is my third set. I'm up in the weight. I'm going for 6 to 8 reps. My personal opinion, that is too low when dieting for competition. I know many people like to ego lift in the gym. They like to lift those really heavy weights, but when you're on a diet, single digit body fat, this is not it. This is not the time to try to max out the weights and go for 6 to 8 repetitions. Way more risky to get injured. And on a fly movement, your reps should in fact be higher. This is not a mass movement. And so my opinion, the reps should be minimum of 10, perhaps closer to 12 to 15. And so I would argue that he's squeezing briefly, but is there a stretch? Remember, it's not just the concentric, it's also the eccentric. Twice as slow on the way down and faster on the way up. This set is done more quickly than last time. The tut is super short and the risk of injury is in fact high. If anything, he's doing partials at the top range. What we've learned recently is that long range partials are in fact better. And so if you can't get the full range of motion at the top, perhaps only go 1/3 of the way up. 1/3 and go back and do more repetitions.
Form's going, I'm gonna do drop set.
Now what he's done is he's decided to do a drop set. Perhaps the weight was too heavy. He's dropping the weight down, getting in additional reps to extend the set. This is a great idea. It's going to increase the intensity, the effort, going to build more muscle than last time.
8 reps. This time to go fast.
Why are we going fast? It's not a race. When you drop the weight down, you don't need to speed up the reps. You could in fact go even slower. And now the tarp's off, as Jesse James says for the boys. You can clearly see the definition in the chest and the shoulders. He does in fact look very lean. I do believe that come showtime, he's going to be in contest condition. But I don't see the size. He looks great if he were an amateur men's physique competitor. He would do good in a local competition. But at the professional level, this is not nearly big enough. Now remember, although I'm saying he's not big enough, I am a fan of physique. This is in fact the look that I think they should be going for. They've gone for guys who are far too big. To me, they need a different category. A category for a guy like Seid, who when he competes at this competition, they're going to tell him he's too small. They need a category for more of the Abercrombie model, beach body model body that most men would strive for. Seid's physique, most men, perhaps 95% of the world, very happy with this. They don't want to be any bigger. But unfortunately, in the IFBB and men's physique, they reward much bigger physiques. Not saying there's anything wrong with those physiques, but for most men, it's not achievable. You need a boatload of performance-enhancing drugs to get that look. And even with them, it's very difficult to have that much muscle. And side lateral superset with bent over side laterals, I do this all the time. One of my favorite exercises for the delts, and I do it almost every single time I work out. And so great exercise, Seid performing it with perfection. He's got great looking triceps. He could work on more size of the biceps, but overall looking very, very aesthetic. And unfortunately, this is not what I call grainy. Perhaps he's been in his off season for long. He's forgotten how lean you actually need to be, because to me, without having seen the legs, it's about 8% body fat. And so if he's looking for 4% body fat, he's going to have to cut his body fat in half. And so I see some lines, some definition, but for a guy who's 3.5 weeks out, he's certainly not way ahead of the game. He's not nearing 5% body fat. He looks fantastic, he looks great, especially for a fitness model. But for somebody competing at the professional level, does in fact need to get leaner than last time. And so remember, this is in fact with a pump. He's doing chest, shoulders, and triceps. That is going to be his all-time best look. All the muscles he's working are clearly visible under the tank top. And so considering that even if I were to compete in men's physique, I would be too small, and I'm 5'6", close to 190 pounds, I do believe Seid needs to be significantly bigger. I'm talking 30 pounds of extra muscle. Unfortunately, men's physique has moved on in the past 6 years since you competed and has gotten way bigger, and in my opinion, isn't really men's physique anymore. Even though I've always preferred your athletic style physique, I think you might struggle to place well in today's competition. Exactly what I'm thinking. He is no way near big enough. Jeff tienes el físico que todo hombre quiere tener. A mí no me gusta muy musculosos. Cuando estabas tu punto máxima estaba brutal. I think Jeff is genetically gifted enough to place well, if not win the show. No, just because you're aesthetic doesn't mean you're going to win a competition. It's aesthetics plus size and definition that's going to win the show. The only thing he is lacking is size. That is like saying, hey, I think this women's bikini competitor is going to win. The only thing she's lacking is she has no glutes. That is a major downfall, probably the most important one of all. But that can be easily rectified. Okay, let me explain this to the younger viewers. You can't easily put on 30 pounds of muscle, especially if you're not natural, especially if you've already taken PDs in the past, and especially if you're at your natural genetic limit. Jeff is 29. How is he easily going to magically put on 30 pounds of muscle? If it was easy to put on 30 pounds of muscle, everyone out there watching this, you go and train for a year and you put on 30 pounds of muscle. But even with performance-enhancing drugs, even if you're natural, if you're a 29-year-old guy, you've been training your entire life at the gym, and you decide to take performance-enhancing drugs, you're probably not putting on 30 pounds. Some of you will. Those who have extremely gifted genetics, those who are going to absorb those products better than last time, they look at the weights and grow. They can do it. Guys are winning the open class Mr. Olympia, guys winning classic physique. These guys can do it. But for the most part, most people, they're not putting on nearly that much size.
All my workouts that I do, it's all pretty much high volume. So I like doing the high volume, first of all, because it's like when I'm training, I'm also burning calories, especially while I'm cutting. I'm trying to burn as much body fat as possible, so when I'm training, I'm doing quick supersets and drop sets, really fast-paced workout, plus high volume, so it gets a lot more work in.
And so I completely disagree with what he's saying. He's saying when he's cutting for a competition, he does more high volume. He takes very short breaks between sets. He's doing tons of volume. He's trying to burn off a lot of calories. Listen, when you're lifting weight, you're there to build muscle. Save the burning calories for when you're doing cardio. When you train weights, you shouldn't be considering, hey, this is to burn calories. You should be thinking, I want to do everything to maximize muscle growth. And so what you do in the off season to build muscle, you should be doing as you're dieting for the show to retain or in fact build more of that muscle. Now, the cutting, the dieting, the getting shredded, all that's going to come from the calorie deficit, which does of course come from cutting calories, but can also come from doing more cardio. The more cardio you do, I suggest that zone 2, so that's easy so you can recover, the more calories you're going to burn. Now, if you think you need to do HIIT cardio, wind sprints and so on, all that's going to do is overtrain your muscles, going to make it more difficult to keep on that size. And so the last thing you want to do is do very hard forms of cardio. For example, sprinting up a hill, HIIT cardio and so on. You want to do low intensity, steady state cardio, zone 2, something where you can talk, where it's comfortable, where you can go for perhaps an hour or even more. And so I'm not a fan of these upright rows whatsoever. He's saying wide grip. He's doing wide. I would actually grab it wider. When he's saying narrow, I'd grab it even more narrow. And he's saying pull it in front of the body. I don't like any of this exercise. I would completely get rid of this. Perhaps he's trying to work more the front delt is the muscle you do not need to develop. That is already going to be trained from doing the bench press, shoulder press, and so on. And so of all the exercise to do for the shoulders, I did not see him do any overhead pressing movements. I believe that should be a staple in your program. Shoulder pressing over the head combined with the side laterals and bent laterals, that should be a great staple to your workout. And so as he does his tricep exercise, you can see he's rushing through the motions. He's not taking his time. He's not increasing time under tension. I believe Jeff could do far better by working on his technique. And so you'll notice his triceps do appear to be very lean, but remember, most men don't store much fat in their triceps. It's in fact the opposite of most women. Most women are going to have more fat retained in their triceps and less fat on their backs. Women tend to store fat back of the arms, hips, and so on. Men tend to store fat in their abdominals. And so seeing as he never showed the abs, that his legs were covered, I do believe he did that for a reason. He doesn't want you to see that still has work in progress. Although his triceps appear to be very lean, he does have some striations in the chest. I believe this is closer to 8% body fat. And so where he says his goal is 4%, that is extremely difficult to do. He's roughly going to need to be in a 1,000 calorie deficit for the rest of the time being to get down to a body fat that low. I don't think he can do it. I don't think he's going to do it. I don't even think he should do it. I believe he would appear far too stringy. 4% body fat men's physique, to me, it's a little bit too low, but wishing him the best. Let me know in the comment section, do you think he's prepping 100% natural? How do you like his physique now compared to when he last competed 8 years ago? And what do you think of the improvements he's made over the last several months and the last time he updated his physique? Remember, if you are in fact dieting for competition, trying to get shredded for summer, don't forget about potential stack of G-Test, Turk Builder, GO2 Max for improved cardio endurance to build more muscle, improved testosterone levels. You can get all of these on my website, Code Greg, 15% off. And yes, Turk Builder is back in stock. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm. Don't forget to watch one of those two boops. And of course, you know, if Jeff Seid had my frigging cookbook, it would make the diet easier than last time. You can head over to the website to get this. If you have no money, get the free diet and training program. It's close to 50 pages in length. Join the over 300,000 newsletter subscribers. And until next time, I am out.